Our story is one of reimagining. Reimagining who you can be, what you can achieve, and how SEMA can support you. As technology and digital platforms disrupt businesses, we are reimagining what the profession can be. We've updated our syllabus to meet the expectation of employers, ensuring SEMA-qualified professionals have the skills to make an impact from day one. Reimagine your career. Contact SEMA Sri Lanka.
Welcome to LMDtv. This week on Talking Business, Anushan Selvarajah speaks to the country director of the World Food Programme, Brenda Barton, on the recent awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize to the organization in recognition of their perseverance under pressure.
Welcome to LMDtv, Brenda. Good to have you with us. First and foremost, congratulations on receiving one of the most prestigious awards around. How did it feel when you got the news?
When the WFP staff here in Sri Lanka heard the news, we were exhilarated, we were surprised, we were shocked, and we were humbled and really feel honored. It was a complete surprise to the staff, not only here, but worldwide, but we do feel that it was a recognition of the commitment and the dedication of WFP staff worldwide to the cause of hunger.
Now recently on the BBC, the head of WFP, David Beasley, said that food is the vaccine to hunger. Could you just explain this statement?
It's an interesting concept. If you think about it, this is a hunger pandemic in the sense that we have, of course, many hungry people around the world. The World Food Programme struggles to feed all the hungry people that there are. And now we have COVID adding to that. We have problems of people having enough income to buy food, and let's not even say nutritious food every day. Therefore, the vaccine really to the pandemic is food. Food is at the root. It's a fundamental need of families, of people, and therefore the World Food Programme and the work we do to feed hungry people is more important than ever.
Let's talk about funding, Brenda, which is a big aspect of the work that you do. Now, there is a growing number of billionaires in the world. How can we best mobilize those with the resources to assist you all in doing the work that you do?
The World Food Programme is a voluntarily funded organization. The majority of the funding that we receive to feed almost 100 million people a year comes from governments such as the US, the EU, Australia, and Korea. And so we need more and more individuals, for example, to step up and feed this growing number of people. And importantly, we need the private sector. There are thousands of billionaires who are actually, many of them, making money off of the COVID pandemic. WFP has reached out to them and said, please come in, step in, and give a hand.
Is there anything that the average person can do to assist you?
I think the first thing is recognition that there is a problem and that hunger actually lurks at the root of many conflicts around the world. We have seen a documentation of where there have been conflicts that have been driven by people feeling marginalized, people not having access to such a basic need such as food, and creating wars even. So I think that if people recognize this strong connection, which is why we've received the Nobel Peace Prize, between hunger and peace. There was even a UN resolution that drew attention to that 2 years ago. More and more people will contribute, not just to helping WFP, but to helping the global cause of hunger.
Brenda, how do you assess the current situation in the country with the pandemic and all, in terms of food security and providing food to people?
I mean, the government has done an amazing job here to both protect communities as well as during the lockdown to make sure that people were receiving food. And the private sector was really critical in stepping up as well and working in partnership, having e-platforms, having food trucks available, etc. But now we're in a really difficult situation whereby the impact of people not having had the income we've lost. People have lost their day labor jobs, there's been loss of remittances, and really an income loss that always has a direct knock-on effect to people being able to buy food. And not just food, but nutritious food, and making sacrifices. So we must carefully monitor what's happening in the country. We must put together policies and programs that, yes, increase agriculture production, but make sure that food is available all along the food systems and the value chain.
Now, giving food or handouts to people is one thing, but what about empowering them to sustain themselves? What sort of programs does the WFP have in place right now?
The WFP sees itself very much here in Sri Lanka as a hand up to the government and hand up to people and communities, as opposed to the handout that we were many years ago when we responded to the tsunami, when we responded to conflicts. And that means having programs like we have underway to help farming communities, for example, water harvesting, home gardens, ways that people can have better livelihoods, and where they can also be protected to the climate shocks that we know that frequently happen in Sri Lanka, droughts and floods. How can they better mitigate those climate crises when they come?
We'll go in for a short break now. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the show as we continue our exclusive interview with the country director of the World Food Programme, Brenda Barton. Brenda, before the break, you mentioned about providing the right kind of food to people. Now, Sri Lanka's rate of malnutrition is about 15% and has been the same for a number of years. What measures should be brought in to better manage this?
So there is a malnutrition problem in Sri Lanka that is really a hidden hunger problem. It means everything from people not having enough vitamins and nutrients in their diet. It means that there are problems with children having enough food really to have the proper weight for their height. And it also means obesity and overnutrition. So we have a triple approach to the country, and it includes everything from making sure that there are more fortified foods on the market, that there's available nutritious foods, that farmers know what they can grow, that is actually perhaps even having a better export opportunity, and at the same time making sure that there's communication, that people know the proportions, for example, of food that they should be eating, particularly our favorite food, which is rice.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Brenda, we also have somewhat of a high obesity rate with, as you correctly mentioned, Apanshan, for eating rice 3 times a day. Now, what can be done about this?
Sri Lanka has an amazing array of foods here. I've been here for 4 years, and I still discover new foods. I think it's a matter of working with the business industry, for example, to have more creative offerings for people. Snack foods is something that we've noted is a real problem. Women are working, people don't have time, and they're having to grab things on the go like they do in many middle-income countries around the world. Where are the options for people to have healthy food that they can access? We have to create consumer demand and consumer knowledge, and then the business industry has to respond. We're working very much hand in hand with the government and Ministry of Health on these initiatives.
So what have been the challenges or the lessons learned working here in Sri Lanka?
The challenges that we've learned is that hunger does not go away, that it lives in different forms. The WP staff here who feel very, very excited about this reward, many of them risked their lives during the tsunami. Many of them risked their lives bringing food to more than 1 million people during the height of the conflict in 2009. Now we're dealing with a different kind of hunger emergency, a nutrition emergency, but these things can quickly shift if people do not have access to food. I've often said a hungry man is an angry man. My years in Africa taught me that. So we have to be very, very cognizant about the importance of ensuring people have access to daily food in the way that they need it, in the time they need it.
Now, Sri Lanka is ranked 6th on the list of countries most likely to be affected by climate shocks. What programs are in place to help us mitigate these shocks, Brenda?
October 13th is the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. This is a theme that's very relevant to Sri Lanka, where we are number 6 of the countries around the world most vulnerable to climate shocks. We've seen that with 2016, we had drought, we had floods at the same time. So one of the things that WFP is working very strongly with the government is to help mitigate and to prevent communities from being hit when those climate shocks happen. And that means building up their resilience, having diversified incomes, not just growing paddy, could they have other skills? Because there are going to be times when they're not going to be able to have an income from the land based on the climate shocks that happen. And of course, it's working with the government to make sure that less and less people die during emergencies, emergency warning systems, information on what's happening on the climate. So a whole array of things to help mitigate the climate shocks that are happening not only here, but globally, and which are enlarging the pool of hungry people.
In terms of the World Food Programme's projects here in Sri Lanka, what plans do you all have over the next few years?
The plans for WP is to really be responsive to the needs on the ground. It's very unpredictable in a country like Sri Lanka whether we could get hit by another climate crisis like the tsunami. If so, we have to be ready to bring in the ships, to bring in the planes, to bring in all the things that will help the country cope with a crisis of that magnitude. At the same time, our plans are to continue our really important work to help communities and to help school children, for example, have better meals, more quality meals in school, to have education about nutrition that we provide, and to really work with the communities on the ground and the government and our partners also in the UN family to really bolster the food nutrition security in the country.
On that point of educating the young in terms of nutrition, do you see them being enthusiastic about it? Do they want to learn?
COVID has brought a huge awareness to everyone, including the younger generation, about the importance of food, because we know that if we're better nourished, then we're better able to withstand the effects of COVID. Our immunity system is stronger. So school children are really a vehicle for change and a vehicle for us to communicate the importance of nutrition and for them then to carry that home to their families and friends. So that outreach is something that we're very much engaged in.
Well, that was really insightful, Brenda. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
After a short break, Ashwini Vethakan will take you through an update of life on Earth. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Ashwini Vethakan. Globally, education is expected to change fundamentally as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, with online learning being viewed as a permanent fixture that will be a vital experience for learners of all ages. According to the Global Learner Survey 2020 published by Pearson, the report notes that the need for upskilling is driven by uncertainty across markets due to changes in technology and job insecurity, with survey participants considering the development of digital skills as important as soft skills. Amid pressure to build skills for employment, people value the role of higher education in the global economy, viewing it as a major driver of personal progress. Moreover, a majority of respondents believe that universities should do more to help retain or reskill unemployed workers. In the countries studied, a higher share of respondents predicted that more colleges and university students will attend school virtually rather than traditionally within 10 years compared to the previous year. Globally, an average of 79% of those surveyed expect this change to take place, led by Brazil and Canada, and followed by the US, Australia, India, the UK, and China. Meanwhile, self-discipline, motivation, and time management will be among the top most important skills for the future of work in a technology-driven economy. According to 66% of the respondents, other skills that are considered to be important include using data effectively at 55%, managing or working on virtual teams at 53%, being able to make human connections remotely at 52%, virtual collaboration at 43%, and presenting virtually at 40%. Of those consulted, 79% expect higher education to fundamentally change because of COVID-19. Additionally, a majority of 88% are of the opinion that online learning will be part of primary, secondary, and higher education moving forward. According to the survey, 32% of respondents believe university or post-secondary degrees are essential to achieving successful and prosperous careers. Meanwhile, 78% survey participants believe online learning will provide more access to a quality education. Given the changes in jobs and careers, 88% of respondents believe people will need to take more responsibility for directing their learning or upskilling for their jobs. As for technology in education, 67% of those surveyed view educational institutions as less effective at using technology than other industries and sectors such as healthcare and banking. Across the country studied, 82% of those polled anticipate new jobs and skill needs arising due to COVID-19. Moreover, 77% of those respondents say colleges and universities focus too much on young students and should offer better options for working adults. That's all we have for you this week. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.